When a wild wolf appeared on the path before the unarmed old man, many would consider it the last moment of his life. But instead of bared fangs and an attack, the predator stopped, staring intently with amber eyes, then slowly trudged into the thicket, constantly looking back, following the beast into the depths of the dark forest. The old man had no idea that what he would find there would shake him to his core and make the entire village freeze in horror and amazement. This story began on an ordinary summer day. Mikhail, an elderly retired doctor, was taking his usual walk through the forest near his country house. He had walked these paths dozens of times, enjoying the quiet and fresh air, but on that day, he was about to experience something special. Among the green bushes, he noticed some movement, and approaching closer, saw a young wolf. His first instinct told him to retreat. Wild animals are unpredictable, but something in the beast's behavior stopped Mikhail. The wolf pup wasn't trying to hide or showing aggression. It was lying on the ground, and its gaze was filled not with fury, but with suffering. The man carefully approached and saw the reason for the strange behavior. The animal's front paw was caught in an old rusty trap, left from the times when hunting was still practiced in these areas. The animal was so exhausted from pain and hunger that it didn't even resist when the man came close. There was no trace of a she-wolf or pack. Apparently, the little one had been abandoned to fate. How long it had spent in the trap could only be guessed, but its condition spoke of many days of torment. Mikhail, who had spent his life saving people, couldn't pass by a suffering creature. It was not an easy decision to take a wild beast home, but professional doctor's skills and human compassion prevailed. With great caution, he freed the wolf pup's paw from the cruel trap. The animal only whimpered quietly, making no attempt to bite its savior. It seemed to understand that the human had come to help. Mikhail carefully took the emaciated beast in his arms and carried it home. On his property, he created a temporary shelter for the wolf pup. Using his medical knowledge, the man applied an improvised splint to the broken paw and began treatment. Every day he fed his unexpected patient, changed bandages, and observed how strength gradually returned to the young predator, whom he began to call Gray. Time passed, and the wolf pup slowly recovered. Despite human care, its wild instincts never disappeared. It wouldn't allow itself to be petted and always maintained vigilance. However, the beast began to show a special attitude toward its savior. It recognized his footsteps, allowed him to approach, and even accepted food from his hands. Surprisingly, the wolf pup was also calm about frequent visits from Mikhail's 8-year-old grandson, who lived in a neighboring house and watched his grandfather's unusual pet with delight. Almost a month passed. Gray's paw healed. He grew stronger and noticeably bigger. Mikhail understood that the time for parting would soon come. A wolf is not a domestic animal. Its place is in the forest. And one morning, the man discovered that the enclosure was empty. The wolf pup had jumped over the fence and disappeared. Although somewhere deep in his soul he felt a little sad, the doctor was glad. Nature had taken its course, and the young wolf had gone where it belonged. It seemed the story had ended. Weeks passed, and Mikhail no longer thought about his temporary pet, assuming it had long since joined a pack or begun an independent life deep in the forest. But fate had other plans, creating circumstances in which the roles of rescuer and rescued were to be reversed. That day, Mikhail's grandson, Sasha, was visiting his grandfather. After lunch, the boy asked permission to go to the forest edge to collect pine cones for a school project. Grandfather let him go, making him promise to return before sunset. But time passed. The sun was sinking toward the horizon, and the boy wasn't returning. When dusk began to fall, Mikhail became seriously worried and went searching. He walked all the nearest paths, called for his grandson, but heard only the sound of wind in the tree branches in response. The forest was becoming darker and more hostile, and his thoughts more anxious. The child could have gotten lost, fallen, hurt himself. Not only wolves lived in these places, but bears too. When despair was beginning to overtake him, Mikhail heard a rustle behind him. Someone was approaching quickly, and it was clearly not a human. Turning around, he saw a young wolf running up to him. For the first moment, fear paralyzed his body. An encounter with a predator in the twilight forest boded nothing good, but something in the beast's appearance seemed familiar to him. The wolf stopped a few meters from the man. It showed no aggression. On the contrary, its behavior was strange for a wild beast. It looked directly at Mikhail, then took a few steps toward the depths of the forest and looked back as if inviting him to follow. And then the man noticed a characteristic feature. The wolf was slightly limping on its front paw. It was gray. Following his intuition, Mikhail decided to follow the animal. The wolf moved unhurriedly, constantly looking back, as if checking whether the man was following. They went deeper into the forest, deviating from familiar paths. No more than 10 minutes had passed when suddenly there was a cracking of branches and Sasha ran out of the thicket. The boy was frightened, but safe and sound. It turned out that the grandson had indeed gotten lost. Trying to find his way home, had wandered into a ravine and couldn't get out on his own. He was already beginning to lose hope when unexpectedly a wolf appeared. Instead of attacking, the beast circled around the boy as if guarding him, and then suddenly disappeared to bring the man to help. When grandfather and grandson, shocked by what had happened, wanted to thank their unexpected savior, the wolf was already gone. It had dissolved in the twilight forest as suddenly as it had appeared. But they knew it was Gray, the same wolf pup once rescued from the trap. Mikhail sometimes goes to the edge of the forest and peers into the thicket, hoping to see his savior, and although Gray has not appeared again, the man is sure somewhere deep in the forest lives a wolf that will never attack a person in a red jacket because it remembers the kindness and care that saved its life. This incredible story is not just a tale about the gratitude of a wild beast. It's a reminder that sometimes our good deeds return to us in the most unexpected ways, and that the connection between all living beings on our planet is much deeper and more complex than we are accustomed to thinking.